This is the third episode of the fourth leadership series around how to become a virtual hoster. So welcome everyone. And today we are going to talk about how to focus on high-end services with higher margins. So jumping direct into this subtopic, low margin services to avoid. So it is easy to do a little bit of everything, and I strongly believe that you should make it a priority to get rid of low margin services. Managing virtual machines and patching Windows Server, well, that used to be something that was a great moneymaker, but now it is 2020 and this has gone. Your customers will need it, but it is not something that you can charge. Perhaps you cannot charge at all, or you can charge just a minimum. Managing mailboxes. Well, hopefully all mailboxes are now moved to Office 365. So this is a task that is so much less. And managing simple websites, managing VPN connections, and simple service desk and break and fix support. All these are examples of low margin services to avoid. And what is a low margin? Well, I believe that if it is like in a region of 10%, well, then it's probably something that you should avoid. Higher end services will be 4 times more profitable than these low margin ones. So a great avenue in order to discover higher margins is to focus on the application layer. If you focus on the application layer and all dependencies, then that is a better place to be than just taking care of the virtual machine. Because your customers, they're not really interested in how their VMs are performing. They are more interested in how their systems are performing. So the more knowledge you have, the more efforts you can bring in to make the experience around how an application is working, the better off you will be in the eyes of the customer. Something that is smart is to document how different applications are working, or how you should move when they are not working, and document this in SOPs, standard operational procedures. If you document how to take care of an application that is facing a problem in the middle of the night, if you know how to do that, then you can probably assign these tasks to lower paid people instead of always having specialized people taking care of incidents. Your customers would love you to give an SLA that is financially backed for how their applications are working, how the uptime is, but they will not appreciate the price tag that comes along. So my recipe for how to make this happen is to give them a written SLA for how quick you will start incident management. And incident management will be best effort, and you will most likely be able to charge for the hours that are involved in incident management in the application layer. So this is a smart way for how to give the customer a sense that you are taking care of his applications, but you are not prepared to pay penalties if the application has a problem. Instead, you will charge him for the work that you are doing when you're taking care of incident management. That's a pretty smart way to make it happen. And if you become known for being application-centric, you will be differentiating yourself, and you will be known for someone that is a little bit better than the rest of the hosting community, because you are the one that take care of applications. And this is something that you can spin with case studies. You can send your people to take certifications on different applications. And perhaps you can even team up with application vendors and say that you are skilled in this, you have the certifications to prove this, and they might be able to partner with you for new business. Another thing that is right now nice margin is Windows Virtual Desktop. And Windows Virtual Desktop is, in a simple word, it is a PC in the cloud. It is a PC that is virtual and not physical. And it can be, if you want it to be, it can be evergreen. And by evergreen, I mean it can be always the latest Windows experience. Or you can freeze it because you might have applications that are not fit for always having the latest version of Windows, and you can freeze it to run a legacy version. And the business around Windows Virtual Desktop is really booming right now. It will become the plain hosting of Windows Virtual Desktops will probably be low margin over time. But right now it is high margin, and we see that there is a shift of people trying to find solutions where they can decommission their Windows RDS terminal server farms and replace it with Windows Virtual Desktop. So virtual hosters that take this to heart and learn how to, in an efficient way, run Windows Virtual Desktop and combine it with user support. We'll probably see that this is not perhaps the highest margin in your portfolio, but it will be a decent margin. So Windows Virtual Desktop, that is something to pay attention to. And I see that the interest from Microsoft is enormous. They want partners that develop skill sets in taking care of Windows Virtual Desktop. Verticalization. This goes hand in hand with all the previous slides. When you want to discover higher margins, going vertical is always part of the solution. If you develop knowledge in certain applications, you'll probably discover that a bunch of these applications are in the same vertical. And when you look at your customer base, you might realize that you are a little bit verticalized, but you have not communicated that to the market. So my advice is to discover your own verticalization. And when you have discovered which vertical you are about to become specialized in, then you should document reference customer stories. And you should make sure that your marketing talks about your verticalization. And some verticals that are underserved are healthcare, professional services, and public sector. Public sector is always hard to get into, but healthcare and especially professional services, these are sectors where the demand is really big, and there are not many partners serving these verticals, or there are less partners serving these verticals than what demand is. And when you have discovered your verticalization, you should talk to the Microsoft salespeople that are engaged in these verticals. And it often starts with you discovering one person, and then you ask that person if you can get introductions to the other members serving that vertical. And this is always something that works. You will also discover that verticalization is something that can take you to new geographical markets. And becoming popular with the people inside Microsoft that are serving a certain vertical is the way to do it. Never stop optimizing. As a way to avoid becoming victim of low margins is if you are proactive and you help your customers modernize their infrastructure. Modernize their infrastructure that is on Azure. And what I mean is that there are always applications that might be fit for sunset, and there are perhaps also ways for you to consolidate VMs and especially databases. And one thing that is popular is to move from spinning separate SQL servers for different applications and instead go to SQL as a service. And if you are proactive, helping the customer discover how to modernize, then the customer will love you and they will allow you to run a high margin ship. I also want to point out that Azure Advisor is a great tool that is free to use if you want to optimize your setup and reduce cost. And snoozing VMs that are not needed 24/7, 365 is also a nice way to reduce cost and to keep your margin intact. So with that, let's open up for Q&A. So what do you think? Does this make sense? Anna, do you have any questions?
I'm just looking in the chat to see if there are incoming questions. Not at the moment, but let's give everyone a minute. And all feel free to take yourselves off mute if you want to ask out loud the question.
Maybe I can go ahead and ask the question if that's okay.
Please.
So today we are seeing, due to the coronavirus incident, we are seeing a lot of demand for online workspace solutions, such as Windows Virtual Desktop, Teams, etc. Very few partners right now, at least where I'm in the sub I'm located, have a value prop for how to deploy this or how to sell this into customers today. And we are seeing that our sub also struggles to reaching out to these partners in order to make them ready for these products. Do you have what are your thoughts around this? Do you have a suggestion for how we could work internally here within our organization?
So what I believe is that more and more is being hosted by Microsoft or is being provided as a service. So SharePoint Online is a service. Teams is definitely a service. Your play as a virtual hoster is probably to look at other applications that complement, that works together with SharePoint Online and especially with Teams. And if you are able to mix it up with your own IP, and if you're able to come up with a verticalized message, then that is something that will work well. There are a lot of ISVs that claim to have nice integration with Teams, but in reality, it is only a few that have really good integration. And the test is you should ask them, do they use the Graph API? If they use the Graph API, then they know what you are talking about, and then they have a close integration with Teams. But the play as a virtual hoster is less here unless you go vertical and you have your solutions that are a little bit premium and not just vanilla Teams or SharePoint Online. So I would say that my message is to focus on the application layer, and this is the solution also here. Focus on the application layer, try to build know-how in certain applications, take care of running these applications, and if they have a nice integration with Teams, then you know that they will probably stand a good chance in the marketplace. Was that a okay answer?
Sure, thank you.
And this is also something, as a hoster, more and more services are being replaced with nice software as a service offerings. And then you need to find new areas to make money on. So one example is running Exchange service used to be a nice segment, but now with Office 365, that is gone. So always hunt for new things, and don't cry too much for the workloads that have been replaced. And you can also help your customers by being proactive and tell them that, hey, this line of business application, perhaps we should move it to a software as a service offering instead. It's better to be proactive instead of becoming a victim. Anything else?
Not in the chat box.
Per, I have a question.
Great.
My question is really, you're talking a lot about developing our own IP. How much consideration should we take on protecting that IP that we develop, and how should we work together with Microsoft on protecting the IP that we develop in the API solutions that you're talking about?
Yeah. First of all, taking out patents is probably not the way to do it. You can try if you have something that is really magical, but my suggestion is to make sure that it is hard to see the code and leverage Microsoft's different marketplaces for how to attract customers. And over time, some customers will want under NDA to see your software code, especially larger customers that are security sensitive. So protecting your API is probably the best protection is that you are successful.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
Yes, I see one in the chat box. So for the hosters that still have a large on-prem setup, do you think they should continue to focus on the de facto standard like Hyper-V and VMware, or they should switch to any other virtualization platform to find a way to increase margin?
So the ones that are on-premise, I believe, should make a plan for how to move from on-premise and move into the cloud. And there are different clouds to choose between. I strongly believe in Azure, of course, and the transition from on-premise hosting to Azure is pretty easy technically, but of course it will have a business impact, and that's where you need to make the plan. You will not be able to move overnight, because then it will significantly hurt your business. So your plan will be over quite some time. And my first advice is to stop investing in on-premise hosting and make sure that your investments are going into the cloud. And then start by moving your own workloads into the cloud, move them to Azure so that you can experience how well it works, and you will also be so much more trustworthy when you have conversations with customers when you have done it yourself. And then as you move workloads from your on-premise hosting to Azure, you need to make sure that you are also reducing your footprint in the data centers. Most likely you are renting space in a co-location facility. So you need to have a conversation with landlord about when you are decommissioning hardware, you want the monthly bill from the co-location place to shrink accordingly. And I believe that you should start with decommissioning your oldest clusters, because your oldest clusters are the ones that are less economical. They are the ones that consume the most electricity, and they need more space compared to the newer ones. But start today, make your plan, start with your first workload, and that is the way to protect your business, because if you don't do it, you'll probably wake up someday and realize that your customers are gone. Do we have any more questions?
Not in the chat. Anyone else?
And it is more fun to run a business that is pointing to the future instead of trying to protect something that is old and we all know is going away. So that's another thing. It is easier to motivate your staff if you are forward looking instead of too much hugging your old hardware. So I think we are done for today. Thank you all for attending. This series has been very successful and we have one episode left. I really value all the side conversations that I have had around this, and it feels to me that there are a lot of people that are interested in how to become a virtual hoster. Thank you very much. Over to you, Andrea.
Thank you, Per, so much for the presentation, and thank you all for joining. As you know, this presentation is recorded and will be posted on the Microsoft Partner Community. Feel free to ask questions in there if there are any remaining ones. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.